All right, folks who have joined on time or early, want to thank you for joining the webinar today. Going to give it another 60 seconds or so. Let everybody roll in, and then we'll get things kicked off. But pretty excited for today's conversation, but bear with us just a little bit more. Okay, it looks like we can probably get things started. Do want to introduce myself? My name is Alvin. I am with J.E. Brown. I lead the sales and marketing efforts. Today, we are going to be talking about Blitz and everything they have to offer in the cannabis space. Before we get started with the meat and potatoes of the presentation, do want to let you know you are in listen-only mode. That is to make sure we have a smooth and seamless experience for you all. We'll also be recording this webinar so we can have it available to you afterwards for reference. Although you are in listen-only mode, we do encourage questions, so feel free at any time if something's unclear or you need some more information. Use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. You'll also find a Q&A section. Either one of those will work. As Chris and Shauna go through today's presentation, I will monitor that and see if we can get you an answer to your question. If not, we will follow up with you afterwards and get you some more information. So please feel free to chime in when something pops up. Other than that, I'm joined today by Chris and Shauna from the Blitz team. Fantastic team over there that are basically the specialists for everything cannabis. Without further ado, I'll pass it off to them. So welcome, Chris and Shauna, and thank you for today.
Perfect. Thanks, Alvin, and thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join today. We've been loving the progress we've seen with J.E. Brown and really just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to continue to move forward. My name is Chris White. I lead the business development function at Blitz. I work hand in hand with the J.E. Brown team, as well as our underwriting team, to make sure that we can get good looks and as much business on the books in the cannabis space, and be the kind of that go-to solution for you all. So just high level Blitz, we're a new specialty carrier, and our whole goal is to make placing E&S business as smooth, easy, and convenient as possible for our brokers. Everything is written on A-rated paper, and we really combined an awesome tech team and platform with insurance industry experts to provide the cleanest solution for you to write some of these harder to place risks. So as you've probably seen through the single sign-on feature, the digital application is super quick. It's very dynamic, and Shauna will walk through this a little bit in more detail, but once you get used to it, it'll take you about 5 minutes to get a quote. 80% of our submissions are straight through, meaning they qualify for our program. You're able to quote, bind, issue kind of on the spot. And anything that gets referred goes straight to Shauna, and she is an absolute rock star getting back to you. I'm not going to put any words or deadlines in her mouth, but from what I've seen, she's super quick. You'll typically get stuff back same day, definitely within 24 hours, provided that we have all the information we need and answers to the follow-up questions. The portal access is what you've been using through the J.E. Brown portal. And then there's just a couple other just convenient factors like e-sign, so we don't have to get wet signatures and scan them and send them around. You can kind of just send a link for signature at bind. As well as just the dynamic application that makes everything as fast as possible, so you're not answering questions that are irrelevant to what you're trying to place. Our first program is Cannabis. We've been in for about 2 years now. We see it as a really strong space to be in, just because of changing legislation. It's a big industry already, and we see it continuing to grow. As I'm sure no matter where you are in the country, just whether you're driving around or walking around, you're going to come across this stuff and continue to see more of it. So we want to be kind of your go-to market. Whenever you think cannabis, we want you to think Blitz. So we're in 42 states right now. It's everywhere that cannabis is legal, minus Hawaii and Louisiana. There's a few states where they still are not fully legal, and you can see it on the map here. But even in the states that are purple where we are writing, there's going to be more opportunities as states go from medical to rec or approving different ways to distribute cannabis products. And really what we're looking for is kind of your Main Street small business, kind of the mom and pop type dispensaries, cultivators, distributors, manufacturers. And then we're really not jumping up and down to write them. But if there's a true smoke shop, kind of a head shop that does have a cannabis exposure, we will be able to consider. But our really core business focuses around more of the dispensaries and cultivators. That's really what we see the most on and the highest success rates. We also offer a lesser's risk product, which, excuse the bad pun, but if you're a broker who's not necessarily deep in the weeds, even the more generalists are kind of tripping over some of this smaller strip type centers where one tenant has a cannabis exposure and gets kicked out of every admitted market. That's been a really strong solution for us, and really hope you can consider us. So whether it is a single tenant dispensary or cultivator on the lesser's risk side, or if it's kind of a multi-unit mercantile retail smaller strip type exposure, we see a lot of those, and we've been winning an awful lot of them as well. Sean, is there anything you would add there?
No, that's about it. I mean, we're trying to write as much as possible, like I said, where it makes sense. And the only state I want to add on, there is another state that we're not currently active in. We should be within the next 30 days, which is Minnesota. So it's a Department of Insurance. We're just waiting for them. As you guys know, the DOIs usually take a long time, but we should be active there in about 30 days.
And one thing I would add for just a little bit more color, I know everyone has a different definition of what small business is. I would say think of us from minimum premium up to around 25K in premium for the account. We're floating in kind of like the low 30s on a quote to bind ratio in that range. And we can contemplate stuff that is bigger, but you'll see that ratio drop off once you get closer to the mid-market type risks. And that's intentional on our side as a newer company, trying to be strategic about how we build risk concentration within the book. But moving on to just our coverage options. So we write general liability, products liability, property, and the lesser's risk. On the GL, we'll go up to 15 million in revenue. That'll be straight pass through. We can go above that. So if you do have something that's bigger, we're happy to look at it. That's not a hard stop. But on the property, it's a $5 million TIV per location. So there's no cap on the policy limits, but per location, 5 million is a contractual limit on our side. So we do have the ability, if they have a couple locations with higher sales and the combined TIVs are over 5, that's okay. But really we're looking for kind of the smaller type stuff. And same goes for the lesser's risk. Property, everything's written on a special form, which is really nice. Shauna will go through more of the coverage stuff too, but you're going to have a broad form AI, primary non-contributory wording, as well as waiver of subrogation. And our minimum premiums are pretty low. So you can get GL and products liability for just around $1,200 out the door. And we really do see that quote to bind ratio even tick up the smaller it gets. So we know this kind of stuff, you don't have time to spend a week or two getting quotes, presenting. So we want to give you the option, and Shauna's going to show you now just how quick and easy it is to walk through the platform. Just in just a couple minutes, you'll be able to quote, bind, and kind of get it on the books and off your desk as cleanly and easily as possible. So without further ado, I'm going to flip this over to Shauna, and she's going to walk through the platform and kind of what you see throughout the journey, quoting with us.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Well, you guys, here we go. We're going for a test drive here. This is our platform, and a few things I want to share with you guys as we get started. We have the option to do, as Chris had mentioned, claims made in occurrence form, but I want to explain why. Some of the policies that are out there are coming off of claims made form. So if you have somebody that has been with, say, Kinsale or James Rivers, maybe Admiral, they're going to need a claims made form to roll over if they don't want to move to occurrence, because if they don't, they're going to have that gap from going from claims made to occurrence. And in cannabis insurance, there's no nose, you can't buy a nose right now. You can buy some extended tails. I know they're kind of limited, they're very pricey generally. So that's why we came in with a claims made form, and we can go back 5 years retro. So we do need to see, loss runs in the previous decks, but generally it checks out. I want to start out by saying, although our company is new in cannabis, our team is not. We have a couple of really great leaders on our team, and people who are experienced in the cannabis. In the cannabis realm, I've been in it for the last 9 years, and came in as part of the original Lloyd's of London group. As some of you may know, that was around a long time ago and pulled out. We do some featured articles. You can see them on LinkedIn with the Insurance Journal and with the National Cannabis Industry Association if you're part of the NCIA. You might want to check that out. A quick Google, and there's a lot of learning information also on the Insurance Journal in regards to cannabis, and specifically how to find those markets and how to target them. So with that, I want to show you what our platform looks like. And Chris kind of, touched on the fact that we are going towards, more of the small business. But when we say small business, it's, 15 million in gross revenues per location. So it's not really that small, but it's, it's not considered middle market, because our TIV is limited to that 5 million cap. And we're going to be, careful looking at these things, but a lot of this stuff will just go right through the platform. And we've paired with third-party integration to make that happen for you. So what happens is that the computer is acting like an app, and it's calculating data and spitting out a number. If it comes to me, we do try to get to, like Chris said, we do try to get to the quotes within 24 hours, at least, to review it and let you know if we're missing something. If we have an influx of quotes, we do ask to give us a little leeway. If you have something that's pressing and you need it like right now, reach out to your wholesaler. They'll let us know that that you have a rush situation that needs to be addressed. I know in cannabis, a lot of them are hurrying up to wait, so we're very aware of that. I'm going to start with the platform, and this is the page that you're going to see on your guys' side. You can, and I'm just going to start from the left panel and kind of go down, and then I'll go from the left to the right across the top, and what you should be seeing on your side. The applications, that's everything you guys have ever put in, whether it's a quote, a bind, a canceled policy, a non-renewed policy, you can search for it in this first application screen, because at some point in its lifespan, it was an application. Renewals are just that, they're renewals. So if you have something that's coming up and you're looking for it to see if we've reviewed it and it's good to go for renewal, you'd click on that tab, type in the name, be able to find it. You can also search for it by policy number. If there is a book roll situation, contact J.E. Brown. We do have the ability to handle book rolls. Policies, these are all the policies that have been issued. So if there's anything that's been bound with us, even if it's canceled, it's going to be right here underneath this policy screen. And you'll be able to look it up by the name or the policy number as well. And you'll be able to see all the pertinent information, the application you submitted and the policy that you bound. That's usually what most of us are looking for. So sub producers, that's you guys. So that's your screen. If you have people that you need to add, you contact J.E. Brown and they will take care of that with you. Integrations, this is something that's you're going to be seeing a lot of. When you get emails back, your submission's ready to review, whatever, your quote's ready to view, you'll see a submission link in there, and it'll take you directly to the policy that's being referred to, which is really nice, because you just open up your email, click on that link, and boom, you're in the system, and you can go exactly to the screen that you're needing. The resource library, now this is really nice. So this is something that we created for our wholesale partners, but we also encourage our retail partners to use it. When you come in here, you'll be able to find things like customizable flyers, which is really great. You can take this information, they come over on Adobe, you can tweak them, you can put your information in there. We're happy to co-brand. Reach out to J.E. Brown for their co-branding instructions if they have their own. And these are things that you can use at your disposal. We also have a paper app. We realize that a lot of the brokers have their own ways of working. I certainly have my own ways of working. You know, I have an iPad and sometimes I bring paper and what have you not when I'm currently going out and working on risks with different folks. And so what you can do is print out the application and get familiar with it. Now, that being said, this application has every question in there for every operation. So if you have a smoke shop, if you have a cannabis dispensary, if you have a cannabis distribution arm or a wholesale arm or whatever the situation is, all of the questions will be in this one app. The system is much more intuitive. Once you put in what the operation is, it only scales into the questions that you actually need. So I'm going to move back up to the top of this. And feel free to throw your questions in chat or in Q&A if you guys, you know, need to. And then we can hit them at the end. I'll try to cover as much as I can here. So going over here from the left over to the right, again, here's all your open policies if they're in offer stage or quote stage. Now, the difference is if they're in offer stage, that means that you have an indication or an offer that's there and you can go look at it. So if it's at quote page, you can bind it. You're ready to go. It's a quote. You're good to go. If you're in pre-binding, that means you're missing something. So for instance, you sent in a bind request, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It's super easy. It's probably the easiest platform you'll ever work on. And I've worked on them all, admitted, non-admitted. This is the good one here. So in pre-binding, if you have anything in there, this is what that means. That means you submitted a bind and you forgot maybe the TRIA form. So you can click on there, open up your file, and it'll tell you what you're missing. So it's really easy. And from that page, you can also upload it. It'll tell you what you're missing. It'll have the copy of the form that you're missing and an uploader. So it's incredibly convenient. You can see your bound business, and then you can see your closed business. Closed business would be anything that's canceled or non-renewed, or if a quote just simply expired. And if a quote simply expired, you can always reopen it and restart it to get a refreshed quote. Our quotes we keep open for 45 days or 10 days after the effective date. And our quotes are good for 30. So moving on from there, I'm going to go ahead and just do from fresh a new application. There's a lot of things that you guys can do in here in regards to what programs you have and what state you have. I'll just kind of take you through, you know, more of a vanilla one, and feel free to play in here and you know, look around. There's back buttons, there's return to application buttons. So I'm just going to go into the cannabis operators program. We do have a a lesser's risk only for the building owners. We just ask that one of the tenants be cannabis related. The kind of tenants that we won't take, you can see in the resource library, are things like contractors outside of like a contractor's office. If it's office exposure, it's fine. If it's an actual contractor where they're building things, moving, like building roof trusses and hauling them out of there, we're not going to be a market for that. We don't want any government offices. You're probably not going to run into that with cannabis, to be honest. And then anything medical related, including residential medical related. So elderly care facilities, daycares, things like that. Anything that you would consider kind of a red line for lesser's risk. Ours is pretty much vanilla. You know, you got your retail shop, maybe they have a nail salon, a boutique, whatever. And then they have a cannabis dispensary, and we see quite a bit of those. And we're very successful at them because we're very competitive. We really like the LROs. So I'm going to get into the cannabis program because everybody knows LROs are easy. Cannabis programs can be a little bit more complex. So we're just going to go in there. I'm going to grab up California. That's where I am. But, you know, all the states, it's the same type of rules. And the same platform. So you're going to see the same question. If you don't know the effective date, please leave this blank. It will leave your quote open for 45 days. And the reason I say this is because sometimes cannabis operators don't know when they're actually going to start. They'll get a date from the BCC or LCB or whatever cannabis, bureau that's in charge, and then it'll take them a while to, go through their whole regulation series. And by the time they get to it, they're a month or two out from their original effective date. So the best course of action is just leave this blank. It's an optional form. If you know the effective date, it might be helpful for you on your side to keep your platform organized to plug it on in, and that way you don't miss that date. You've got your trigger there set up that it'll remind you. So here's your legal business name, your GBA. I won't bore you guys with this stuff. This is all the stuff you guys see on the Accord, what kind of business type they are, the description of operations, what they sell, manufacture, whatever they do. So when you pick these, it's going to pick the class code. It's very important not to misclassify. And for example, if you have something that is a dispensary, it's really important you don't class it as a smoke shop. We do have the CG 2144. It's a designated operations endorsement, and it's a limitation. So it's really important that whatever they do, you put on here. You will find our appetite is pretty broad in the way of cannabis. I'm going to go ahead and just plug in an address and a business here. And we're going to pick that it's LLC. You will notice that we do have Smarty Street. So if you start typing in the address, it will fill in the rest of the address for you. So it's really easy. And I'm doing this while talking, so it's really that easy. Yes, I've done it before, but again, I've also worked on a lot of platforms in different venues, and this, I think, by far is the easiest. I'm going to go ahead and pick a dispensary. I'm not going to pick any of the other things here, just because a lot of what you'll see is dispensaries. We do, right, cultivations. We're phenomenal at them. Manufacturers, smoke shops. We have a $2,000 minimum premium on the package, so you can get the general liability for $1,000, and then the property, the minimum premium on property starts at $1,000. So,
quick question.
Yes.
So I see tobacco and smoke shops. Is there a minimum? I'm guessing they have to have a CBD related exposure, correct? Is there a minimum revenue they need off of that CBD, or how do you guys measure that?
No, there's not. We don't actually ask for the specifics on the CBD. What we ask is that they have a CBD or a hemp product, and hemp products can be anything from rolling papers. We're not real specific on it. And so what you will see on the smoke shops is in most states, you're going to have a $2,500 minimum deductible. I believe there's only 2 or maybe 3 markets out there writing smoke shops. So we are restricted, but I don't think we're any more restrictive than what's out there in the rest of the market. We do very well with them. We do look for controls. They do need to have central station burglar and fire alarm. We do prefer the ones where they have some kind of security for their windows and doors. We encourage the retail broker to be the best version of yourself as far as risk management, and get out there and tell them you really do need a rolling metal door, or one of those pull down metal security gates at night. Unfortunately, tobacco shops are targets. They don't want to be, but they are. And they really need the retailer's help securing that. And we can do our job from the underwriting table to help them avoid those claims and get their insurance costs back under control, just like we did for cannabis. So we can definitely champion that. So for retail dispensaries, I'm just going to pick hemp and CBD. As you guys know, there's probably not a lot out there that they're not selling both. I personally have never been into a dispensary where they weren't selling both. I'm going to go ahead and just pick recreational and medicinal. If you have a state that's purely medicinal, like say Arizona, and you know it's on the ballot to go recreational, I highly suggest you pick both, because again, the CG 2144 is on the policy form. If they're just medicinal and you have medicinal and recreational, it's not going to hurt you in a claim situation. So I just want to encourage you to encapsulate as much of their operation as you possibly can, thinking forward about what their potential future needs may be. If you have a different mailing address, you would put it in here, then the operations address. In this case, I'm just going to say the operations and the mailing is the same. If it's a new venture, that's okay. We take new ventures. It's a small nominal surcharge, and if they hit below minimum premium, it won't trigger anyways. So, you know, it's, and when I say nominal, it's like 10% over on the GL. It's not very much. So, general liability, again, we talked about, you know, the claims made and the occurrence forms. We offer hired and non-owned auto. We offer employee benefits liability coverage. We do have products and completed ops that is on claims made form. On the hired and non-owned auto, we won't do any delivery type services. So if you have a dispensary that delivers to home, we can't do it on the hired and non-owned. We can do it on everything else, just not the HNOA. They actually need a commercial auto policy to cover their needs. So this wouldn't cover their needs anyways, because it's more incidental and it's secondary. It's like excess overhired, just like the rest of the cannabis market. You're going to see the same form with our competitors as well. The employee benefits liability also is claims made. So I will go through that and you can see the limits that are available there. And you can toggle on and off which coverages you need. So if you're here and you've got GL on and you're like, you know, I don't even need to see the claims made option, you can turn that right off. I'm going to leave it on just so you guys can see it for the purposes of the demo. I'm going to leave hired and non-owned and employee liability. I'm going to leave as much on as it makes sense so we can toggle off at the end. If you are sitting with a client who doesn't know what they need, my suggestion is leave all of these on and then change them at the end, because it's easier to leave them all on and answer the questions at the front than have to try to go back and fill in the holes with them. And I'll show you what that looks like so that would make better sense. So I'm going to leave these guys on. I'm just going to pick a few things with property. I'm going to pick the building. We do offer building ordinance. A little perk and a beautiful thing about our program is that we do offer building with tenant improvements for those special situations where they have a triple net lease and they need that. We do offer business extra expense, and we do offer equipment breakdown that includes extra expense. So I'll show you what that looks like. I'm just going to kind of leave a few things on here. Here's your equipment breakdown primary, just so you guys can see. This is very important. Most markets will not offer this. You do have to have backup electrical for a cultivator or a manufacturer. So I'm going to say that again. If you're a cultivator or you're a manufacturer, you need equipment breakdown. You do have to have some kind of backup electrical, whether that be solar, gas power generator, whatever you have. But you do need to have some, because that is where a lot of those claims came in. But we offer spoilage coverage, which is a big deal because a lot of the programs that are out there with the EV do not offer that. So we also offer some limits in there for hazardous substance and data restoration and ammonia contamination and stuff like that. So I'm just going to turn that off for the time being. You guys, I'm sure, have seen how those all work. And you can play with it. You can get in there and play with it. Our commercial property extension, this is one of my favorite things because unlike other markets, you can order these a la carte. So you can pick the coverages that make the most sense to your particular insured. Sometimes they don't care about accounts receivable, or they don't care about outdoor signs and fences. I'll tell you why. Because if they're a manufacturer or if they're a cultivator, guess what? They don't want trees and shrubs around the facility just in case there's a fire. They like that defensible space. And they don't care about a sign because they're not posting a sign out there saying, "Hi, come steal from me. I'm manufacturing cannabis products." So you can pick the ones that you want that make sense. So I'm just going to kind of turn off a few of these just so you guys can see what this looks like at the end. I'm not being selective. I'm just kind of turning off whatever. We do offer door damage and backup sewer. If you are a cultivator, one of the great unique programs about, features about our program is that we have a $10,000 limit, just small limit for outdoor. If you've been in cannabis for a long time, you know there is no outdoor coverage. So we're one of the only folks that offer even a tiny limit for outdoor plant coverage. There you go. So a few things too, if you have a question, you can enter your question here and it will get forwarded to J.E. Brown and thus into your wholesaler. So kind of a neat feature there. You can always download the Blitz supplemental. If you're, stuck, you can always, copy your URL and work with your wholesaler on that as well. So as you're going in here, you're going to put the name of the property in there, and that this helps identify. So we don't do it like location 1, building 2, location 1, building 3, or whatever. We do it by the address and the name. What this does is this helps not only you, but us get a good picture of what this risk is, so that when we're talking about it, we're like, which building is this? You got 6 buildings on here. Is this the retail building, or is this the manufacturing building? Is it the storage? You know, and it really helps us work through the risk and get down to what we're quoting. And then you can also put what it is here. It's a building. Is it a greenhouse? Is it open air parking lot? Is it a parking garage? Most of them are going to be building, and then you can go ahead and submit. Now, you guys did notice, I'm going to go back just one prior page, just in case you have one that has multiple locations and say you got a schedule that downloaded from TAM or IMS. This CSV is pretty compatible with that schedule that you get pulled out of your system. So, and that was by design. So if you have one with multiple locations, feel free to download that sample, compare it to what you're getting out of TAM. And that should be able to work pretty well together with very few minor things that you just have to delete. So that should be really easy for you guys. Here's your these pages now, some of them are going to look redundant. They're not. They're location specific. So now we're asking you some location specific questions. How many stories is this? And you know, this is the stuff you guys see on the 125, 140 Accord forms. So nothing new here to put the COPE information in. So we're just going to say we have a non-combustible building. You guys can see you have all the options. So if you have a steel building, you have your, you know, resistive and your fire resistive, and you know, we've got everything accounted for in here, including roof types. We have a lot of roof types too. You can put the year it was built in here. If it's over 20 years, we do need updates. If they don't have updates, we can't write them for anything. So please make sure they have updates. What updates look like is an inspection/update. We know they're not going to get their plumbing out if the building was built in 1975. What we ask is that they've had a licensed contractor inspect it and clear it for safe usage within the past 20 years. So that's pretty liberal. Here's your all your different, I mean, we have even solar tile. We've thought of everything. Most everything you're going to see is probably built up rolled roof and comp roof, but we've got everything in there just in case. And then if, you know, if the roof has been updated or inspected, please put that information in there. So, and then we're still on location specific. So this is where you're going to put in, oh yeah, this is just the retail, no big deal. If it's sprinklered, how much it's sprinklered. Sometimes they're 100%. Most retail facilities are not, because the bathrooms are not. So most of the time you're going to see like 80%. What this does is it creates a credit on our site. So if you know the amount, please put it in there. It's beneficial to you. Do they deliver to customers? If you hit yes, it's going to cancel out your HNOA, because as I said before, hired and non-owned is not eligible. And neither is the distributors, because their main job is transportation. So in that case, you would need a actual auto policy. The total square footage, this is where you're just going to put in the size, the sales. This is kind of normal stuff. We'll throw in 10 million estimated building value. Our system has a RCV calculator in it, so it will stop you if your replacement cost of the building is off. So in this case, it's saying, hey, you put in that you had, you know, this 2,000 square foot building, that you're putting in the value of the building. We're saying this, do you understand? You can just say, I understand, and keep moving on. This is just a demo, so it's just kind of, you know, we're just going to put in whatever. On the business income, there is one little caveat I want to point out, is that it is 55% of the total gross revenue. So that's the max that we will offer. You do have different indemnity clauses. You can pick 3, 6, 9 months, 12 months. And that helps you kind of get to the value where the insured feels is necessary. If it's a tobacco shop, 3 months isn't typically a big deal. From my experience in cannabis, I highly recommend reviewing the regulations in that area. Usually 6 months is a good, I wouldn't go under 6 months, is what I'm suggesting as a professional, just because they do have to go through inspections and regulation, and another Bureau Cannabis I'm sorry, a Cannabis Bureau to get their license and everything approved so they can keep working at that new location. It's thinking. I threw in some weird numbers, so it's gonna think for a second. Well, this thing is streaming. I'm not quite sure why it's taking so long. Probably because I'm on Zoom. If you guys, again, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in chat or the Q&A, and we'll get right to it.
Yeah, while we're loading, Alvin, anything that we haven't hit on that you or anyone else has been hoping to hear?
You guys have covered everything at great length so far. I'm sure some questions will roll in before we finish up today. I do have to say, every time I see this system, it is by far one of the most nimble, and you guys are so fantastic at curating a positive and smooth experience for agents. I'm just always in awe of what you guys have here.
I'm
Thank you.
blushing.
We appreciate that. We also appreciate the relationship with J.E. Brown. You guys have been fantastic and definitely one of our VIPs. And as retailers, they're very lucky to have you on their side. I'm going to go through the business income now with the limits that we were talking about. These are where you guys can pick, you know, if you want 9 months, 6 months, 3 months, whatever you want. I'm going to leave it at 12 months, just, you know, so we can get through this. These questions right here on the higher are for the hired and non-owned. If they have folks that are using their vehicles so that they can get that HNOA coverage. If they have security guards, if they carry firearms, I'm going to say no. If they do, we can write them. It's going to trigger the A and B exclusion. And there are different things that trigger the A and B exclusion, just so you guys know. So if you're in a high crime area or something that's kind of on the verge, or maybe it's not a high crime area, but the burglary rate is elevated for some reason, you know, and the other ones are low, it will activate the assault and battery. We do have sublimit options that we use. We've really worked hard to make this as flexible as possible. And so then you can pick your limits. You got 1 million or 1 million, 2 million. These are only two limits. So 1 million or 1 million, 2 million. Most leases do require the 1 million, 2 million, and mortgages, but too. So, and then you can pick your claims made. You know, we did do the 100, 300 to match if you're coming off of a Canopius and you just kind of want to roll those same limits. And then, you know, or you can go higher. That's completely up to you. For the employee benefits liability, your max limit is going to be that 1 million ag. And then if you have additional named insureds, now this is not additional insureds. We have a blanket AI on our form, which is really great if you're a retailer, right, you guys? Because then you just pull the form off the policy and you send your cert and you're done. And that cert has the WOS and the primary non-controversial wording. So you're solid, you're covered. If you need an additional named insured, that's different. That's where you have, like, say, an LLC and they have maybe multiple entities covered under that location that's all scheduled. And that's where you put it in there. It's very rare. 90% of the time, just so you know, I'd say 95% of the time, this is going to be a no. The only time it becomes a yes is something like a vertical model or something like that. So if they have a subsidiary that they need covered that's not on here, you'd need to provide that information. We just need to make sure that that subsidiary is covered somewhere else, or we schedule it on this policy. So that's what it's for. We just don't want to pick up exposures that we're not actually accounting for. So if they sell Delta 8, Spice, any of those synthetics, this is specifically for those synthetic. The key here is synthetic. If they do any of those and you mark yes, that's fine. It will decline products coverage and you'll lose personal and advertising injury for those Delta 8 products. So I'm going to put no on this one just so you guys can see the full suite of what we offer. If they sell alcohol, this is supposed to be a retailer. They don't usually sell alcohol. If they do sell alcohol, let's say it's a tobacco shop, it just needs to be under 20% to qualify. So we're just going to say no. If they have on-site consumption, unfortunately, right now, as much as we want to be, we're just not a market for it yet. There's still a lot of dram laws that need to get worked out there. So that we would not be a market for that. If they do have on some site consumption, there are other markets such as, James River or Admiral Kinsale that will take those, and you see your J.E. Brown representative, and they'll be able to assist you with that. If they have any markets that are white labeled, that's great. Most dispensaries do. What it will do is throw the manufacturing code on there, and then that way your designated operations are covered. So, and then for your general liability and property attestation, this is just one. You guys have probably seen these questions that are in the Accord forms. I think it's the 125, and they ask all these questions. We just lumped it into one question that you're certifying, like, this is all worked out. These situations don't exist. If they do exist, please email your underwriter at J.E. Brown. And I'll give you an example. Let's say they have a cannabis crime in the past. Could be a misdemeanor, could have been a felony, I don't know. Send that and get that information together, send it to your J.E. Brown underwriter, and then they will forward it on to us, and then we will be able to work on it with you from there. A lot of these are being expunged. We are not looking at cannabis related crimes, but I know you want to document in that in your system, and we need to document it on your site as well. Again, we try here to make tunnels, not walls. So if any of the drivers have violations, so all these questions, these have to do with the hired and non-owned. And you can see a lot of these are really heavy questions, like if they're leaving the scene or doing a hit and run or something like that. If you hit yes that any of their drivers did that, it's going to decline HNOA. So it is important that the owner of the business is pulling MVRs. You as the retailer, you again get to champion that risk management, and it gives you more firepower for being the best agent out there. Do they require the proof of auto insurance? It is required for our program. So, and do they get MVRs? So you guys can see as we did this, we also built in a way for you to risk manage and be that amazing retailer. This is the property enhancement. It's just asking about some of the things that the property enhancement attestation. It's just saying, we do say that they do have some kind of burglary, low jack system in their car. They don't take money home. You guys feel free to dig in here and read through these really carefully. And if you download the paper app, you can read through all these attestations. I don't think you'll find anything out of place there. So again, we're going into some of the specifics on this property. Are they adding buildings on? Are they doing a build out? Are they doing any kind of renovation? If you say yes, that's not a problem, but we're gonna ask you some additional questions. You see how innovative this is? And what this says, these additional questions, it stops a lot of that back and forth with your underwriter. So it's kind of like, when you send something in, you get a question back, you send that back, you get another question back. We got rid of all that noise by coming in and asking you up front, like, what are they doing? And that way it can pass through or submit to your underwriter. We may have one or two additional questions, but you're not bombarded with 20 separate emails and having to go back to the insured that many times, because that's very frustrating for everybody. If they have had any claims, please get the information. If the claim is still open, you can fill all this stuff in there. When they have claims, please get all the information. Don't just say burglary. Like, that doesn't really help. You can see that on the loss run. Insured was burglarized. They had, they ran through, the glass doors. Since then, the insured put on bars. They put in concrete pilings so somebody can't drive through the building anymore. Give us the ammo that we need to get you approved. So, and I don't mean make it up. I mean, get the insured to do the right thing, champion that risk management so that we can get in there and go, okay, yeah, they had this claim, but look what they've done since to make sure this never happens again. And we really do, we are very thoughtful of things like this do happen. If there's nothing, great. If you guys have loss runs, please upload them. If they have losses, we do need the loss runs. So if you don't have currently valued, just put in there what you have and put it in the notes. These aren't currently valued. Those are on order. It saves a question from your underwriter, and we like to move as fast for you as we possibly can. So more is definitely more in this case. So, and then you can put the nature of those losses. So I'm going to turn these both to no, just so we can move through this. Anything else that you want to say about this risk? The risk is clean, it's shiny, ADA compliant, whatever you feel is necessary to put in here. A lot of the information we need, especially on the ones that have higher property values where you know the premium is going to be over 10,000, just what our competition is really helpful. So we don't have to come back to you and say, hey, what's the target? Or if they're being non-renewed, tell us why they're being non-renewed. Sometimes it's not a bad thing. So, a lot of people are with conifers. You guys know they lost their rating recently, so a lot of insureds are going to have to move. Just throw that in here. It'll help us get you through the system faster. You can upload any files that help, that you like, this happened, they had a loss, blah, blah, blah. And then it's going to, if you have something in here that needed to go to underwriting, it will go to underwriting, and you'll see a note like this. It'll say, thank you, it's gone to underwriting. So there was something in our submission that triggered underwriting. I'm going to go back to the first name insured and I'm going to kind of scale this down, make it a little bit more vanilla so you guys can see what it looks like after we bind. So just give me one moment here. And you can see how easy it is now that I've gotten to that point to go through and kind of change things. You're going to use these purple diamonds at the top and you can go back and change things. I'm just going to get rid of the property coverages. It's usually what triggers a escalation. So let's see what happens. It was probably the premium size because I have a lot of sales in there. So I'm just making this super vanilla right now so we can get to the quote. On the renovations, just so you guys know, we do take the ones that they're doing updates, like minor updates. So for instance, if they're building a pony wall, or maybe they're having shelving put in, or inventories or whatever, sometimes they're having a vault updated or installed, that's fine. What we're not wanting to do is get on something where they really need a builder's risk, and and a COC. Like, we don't want to, if they're doing a build out, the building's gonna be partially vacant and there's contractors' equipment everywhere. We're not, we can do it. It's not that we're not a market for it, but they have to have those supplementary coverages already in place so that we can do it. So they say they have a grow, and grows a lot of times, as you guys know, they have build outs. So we just need to see the other policy for that build out so that we can stay on the grow while they're in operation. So again, we're making more tunnels for you guys. So this is the final quote page, and you guys can see from here, you can mess around with your limits, you can mess around with your deductibles, you can really, put the squeeze on these. You can go back and forth with claims made and occurrence to see what the pricing difference is for your insured, which is really nice because you got them sitting right there and you're trying to just seal the deal and be done with it. And then you can pick, I know a lot of the leases have the higher fire, legal, damage to premises. So you can increase those, and you can see the premium is nominal. It's like $150 to get, an extra 200,000 in coverage to take you to 3. And then, if they want 500, it's $500. So it's really nice. It just goes right through for you. You can, change your products. That higher non-owned employee benefits that's just like the limits that they have. That's it. And then we're going to go ahead and continue on to the proposal. I stripped out the property just so I can show you guys what a quote looks like. Not all property quotes, by the way, escalate. I just wanted to get through it where I knew it wouldn't escalate so you guys could see it. So in here, the fees are from J.E. Brown. So once your quote has been released, J.E. Brown, they put in their underwriting fee. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, I believe it is already programmed in the system. So it should go through for them.
Yeah, it should be.
Perfect. So there should be no waiting. We use in Cypher, we automatically calculate the taxes and fees for you folks. So it counts in the laws in that system. So for instance, if you're in a state where they have to do taxes against the broker fee and the premium, it will calculate that. You do not need to memorize it. We're hooked directly in with a third party processor named in Cypher. So a lot of you folks may know who that is. So and then here's your checkout. You're ready to go. you're ready. You got the application and the quote packet that needs to be signed. If you want to change any deductibles at this point, you can just click on this. It'll take you back to the page we were just on. If you want to choose your effective date, you can do that here, and you can put the effective date in that you want, and then you can request a bind. I'm going to go ahead and hit request bind just so you guys can see what that looks like. I'm sure you'll see the quote application packets. They're very easy to read. You can e-sign, which we highly recommend, especially if you're sitting there with your iPad and you're right in front of the insured, just have a B-sign. You get their email, you put your email in, and it sends emails to you guys, and the platform says it's pending the signatures. And so it's so seamless. It's so easy. You can watch the whole thing go on, and you're just going to put the information in there. Oops, let me show you what that looks like. Okay. So if you don't have any mortgagees and you don't have any loss fees, if you do, please put them in there now. The forms will attach to your policy issuance, which is really nice. And then you're going to put in, I'll put my information in. You're going to put in who the audit person is, and then you're going to continue forward. And then you're going to put in your name as the retailer, your name as the producer, and you're going to hit submit. And then it's going to tell it, this is the page you're going to see at the end. So you'll know exactly where this is sitting when you go in to this file again. You can see the document that's being signed. You can resend it if you need to edit it. You can send a reminder. You can cancel it. So I am going to go ahead and cancel this one and show you what the uploader looks like. You can also upload from this screen. You can see how you can move around through the system here. You're like, where am I at? You can add in additional information. You just go to the little diamond, wherever you want to be. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to kick this back through and say, you know, I really want to upload. I don't want to e-sign. I canceled it out. Just going through the pages real quick. Make sure nothing's changed. Sometimes things change in between. You know, you have a conversation with the insured. All of a sudden they want something added on or taken off or whatnot. It'll regenerate. It'll go through and look at all the decisions. It'll regenerate, and then you can hit request to bind. And then you can change it to upload. Now, I want to mention that I am on Zoom. When I'm on Zoom, for some reason, my platform always runs a little bit slower. When I do this, when I'm not on Zoom, it just flags. So the little stalls you guys are seeing, it's a consequence of it. So then you can put your same thing. Now we're going to upload. So there's two ways to bind. You can e-sign or upload. So you mark it. If you have your mortgagees, it's easy. You just shove that information right in here. Loan number, everything. Make sure you put the loan number in, because the mortgagees will kick it back, and you don't need that service line. It'll slap it right on the endorsement. Okay, there you go. And then you can just choose a file. You know, you can come in here, you can download the forms, choose a file. I'm just going to grab whatever file I have here in my system. And you can drag and drop it, or you can upload it. It says choose file, so you can drag and drop it or upload it. Easy breezy, whatever you guys want to do. Any notes that you want, you know, there you go. Like, here's the app, pictures to follow, loss runs within 10 days. If you guys do have something where you have loss runs on order and they're not back before the bind, our underwriting team does allow 10 days in grace for your loss run. For the bind date, if you bind today, that's fine. We're going to hold your bind effective today. We do need the docs within 5 days to hold that effective date. There will not be coverage bound until we have all the documents, but we will hold the date for you as a reservation. So again, we try to be, and that, you know, you might want to check with J.E. Brown. They may have additional restrictions, but that is a grace that we allow. And so far, it's worked out really well for everybody. Best practice, of course, is to get your money and your signed docs at binding, because you are responsible for both. So there you go. Now it's over at our underwriting team. Before the binder's issued, myself or a member from my team, we will look through all the binding documents and the submission that you sent. Very, very rarely do we come back and say, you can't write this because of this or that. It's just super rare. It would have to be like, you know, on the discovery side where we got an inspection and there were no updates to the building, or the insured lied about what they were doing or something like that. Maybe there's a demo going on. But 99% of the time, these go right through. We look at them, we just make sure all the documents are there. If the documents are missing, it'll go into pre-binding and you'll get an email that says, thank you for your bind. No coverage has been bound. We're missing the TRIA form or we're missing the sales and audit form. Most of the time, we're going to get it back and say your policy is ready for review. It's very simple. It's very easy. And then from there, if you have any questions, you can just reach out to your J.E. Brown associate. And so I have any questions? It looks like there was just a chat right there.
Yeah, a couple of questions, Shauna, and then we can wrap. After this webinar for everyone who's on the call, I can follow up with some of those flyers, some resources, and a recording of this training. So if ever you need to refer back to it and slow things down, or there's something you're looking for, I can provide that for you. One of the questions, though, Shauna, was do you require licensure, or what sort of licensure for these shops are you looking for?
The licensing?
Yeah, any state licensure that you are verifying, or what do they need to have in regards to that?
That's a great question. So we have been very thoughtful about this because our program encapsulates a few different things, and there are multiple laws throughout the different states. For instance, if you have a CBD manufacturer in the state of California, guess what? They don't have to have a CBD license. They have to have a manufacturing license to the Secretary of State, right? Whereas if they have cannabis, they're going to need a cannabis license. If they're a tobacco shop, they don't need either. They need a seller's permit or what have you not. So what we have done is we have a active license warranty, and the way it reads is that they have to have an active license that pertains to the business that they are involved in, and they have to be within the state and local municipality rules and regulations. So it really just means whatever you're doing, you got to be doing it correctly. So if you're a cannabis cultivator and you're in a state that requires a cultivation license, then you need to have that license for coverage to be valid. If they are not licensed and they are a cannabis company and they're breaking the law, that we're not even a market for that. We wouldn't underwrite to that. And so and it is in the application, there is a warranty section that says, you know, I do testify that I am, you know, in possession of the license that pertains to this operation. And then there's also a policy form that speaks to that as well. So I think that's pretty flexible, because also in some states, you could be a distributor, Alvin, and the license is different than distribution. It'll be like transportation, or it'll be a manufacturing. So because of the states being so weird with all the different licensing names and laws and regs, we just kind of did it as vanilla, like you have to have the license that it pertains to your business. Does that help?
Yeah, perfect.
Cool.
Well, you guys were so all encompassing. It looks like we're right on time, so we can wrap for today. I do want to thank you, Chris and Shauna, for joining. The partnership is very valuable to us, and you guys are clearly the front runner in everything cannabis. If anyone on the call has follow-up questions, needs some assistance, you want to reach out to your regional sales manager at J.E. Brown for additional training, just simply let us know, send an email, give us a call, all of that great stuff. For today, thank you all for joining, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Alvin. Have a good rest of your day.
You
Thank
too.
you.